Good morning to this, our third webinar of this kind anyway. And this morning we will be doing into the West Country and looking at 8 fabulous schools in one of the prettiest parts of our lovely Great Britain. By way of introduction, my name is William Petty. I'm a co-director at Bonus Macfarlane and indeed the School Show, and both companies work very closely together. Sadly, 2020 has meant that the shows themselves are not physically possible, as one might well imagine, and therefore we have this Into webinar series, which is designed to keep bringing you that access to senior leadership at these fantastic schools around the country, and thanks to the miracle of the internet, probably seeing rather more of them than you would do at a show, because we'll be broadcasting live from each of these schools. Now, touch wood, technically speaking, this has gone rather well so far. So every time a new one happens, I'm thinking this is the one where it goes belly up. But once again, we've arranged the weather at vast expense, and I can see some sun pouring through chapel-stained windows across my panelists up on my screen. Bit of overcast in Pangbourne, but I suspect it might get sunny as we carry on. So a little bit more about Bonus Macfarlane. We're a sort of different version of the show, if you like, in that we do very sort of tailored school placements and university placements at all ages, and so work very closely with schools and families in that regard. And I spend the majority of my time helping families find just the right fit. And today you will learn a little bit about really quite a lot, and you'll get a sort of little insight into just how diverse, how impressive the offerings is from our wonderful schools across the country. But today we can be nice and biased and say how great they are down the West Country, and let my 8 speakers contest it out on the webinar. I'm joking, we're not actually going to decide here if anyone's better than the other. The point is, all schools offer something different, and it's not whether one school is better than another. It never has been, and schools will tell you this. It's about which school is best for your child or children. And each of these schools, like your children, has a distinct personality, I like to think. And it's important you understand that your child joining a school is a two-way relationship. It's not just, what is this place going to give my kid? It's, what is my child, this is what the schools will be thinking more of, what is my child going to leave behind? Is he going to contribute, or she going to contribute to these schools? So you've had plenty from me, and we've got a packed schedule. So without further delay, my favourite bit, we're going to go live to Cheltenham College in Gloucestershire, where Nicola Huggett, the headmistress, is waiting in the beautiful chapel with sun pouring in the window behind her. Nicola, over to you.
William, thank you very much. So I'm hoping that you can hear me nice. It's very echoey up here in the balcony of Cheltenham College Chapel, but William wanted us to be somewhere that was very memorable for all our schools, so I chose to come up here to the chapel. William asked me to talk a little bit about probably one of my favourite topics, which is about achieving your potential, and how independent schools generally, and obviously we feel we're part of that, can help your children to achieve your potential. So I'm just going to talk a little bit, 5 minutes or so, about that topic. And I'll include some detail about Cheltenham, but obviously the best way to see all of our schools is to be able to come and visit at a time later to be decided by the government. So achieving your potential. Every year, I think one of the opportunities that I love the most is interviewing our lower 6th candidates for prefects here at Cheltenham. And now, as I'm in my 3rd year being the head here, I was the head at Blundell School in Devon before that. I'm now seeing pupils that I actually met as quite nervous new entrants to college when they visited quite some time ago. And it is fantastic to see them wanting to take on these new roles. One of the real joys of my job, and of course there are many being a head teacher, is to hear them say overwhelmingly that at college we have helped them to achieve their potential. And I always dig into that a little bit, because obviously it's an easy thing to say. And I'm rarely disappointed, because essentially, according to them, achieving your potential is not a one-size-fits-all thing. It's about them as individuals, their individual strengths, and battling the challenges that they have that are very much their own, and being cared for, encouraged, and inspired to be the very best that they can be. So seeing our children flourish at the heart of really the heart of our ambition as parents for our own children, and of course, no less important as a head teacher to do that. There are obviously three important elements that we build together to try to encourage our children to achieve their potential. And the key parts are, of course, the school that you choose. And I'm looking at lots of kind of my friends here in this screen of other heads in the Southwest, all excellent schools. So the school is important, of course, the child themselves, and crucially, your role as parents in that. So potential is essentially about seeing the latent abilities or qualities that we have all developed, see them develop into future success. And that success might, of course, be measured in excellent exam results and top university places, prize skills in music, drama, and sporting success. But I would say in our world, as a boarding school who, along with many of my colleagues here, pride ourselves on a breadth of opportunity and building character and strength from the inside out, we see the development of a resilient and positive approach to life as the major potential that we want every single boy and girl to achieve. And inner confidence, a good heart, a positive outlook, and being really interested in others and being interesting are what we are really seeking to achieve. So how do we, each of the three of us, play our part in this development? Well, firstly, of course, I'm here to talk about the school's role. And we see what we want to see our pupils achieve their potential in, of course, at the moment, especially the most incredibly demanding set of challenges that we've probably ever faced as a society and even as a school. You should expect that we as a school have the people, the place, and the passion to know your child and to start to recognise and help them recognise, even on day one of what will be, we all hope, a 5-year journey with us, what they need and what they might want to achieve. As independent schools across the country, we have facilities that are the envy of the world, and we must make sure that in offering our pupils the breadth of activity and interest, they can really develop an interest in whatever they're looking for. It's the first step, of course, is not to be afraid to recognise it. And when you're looking at schools, it's a good idea to ask the pupils and the staff that you meet about what the most unusual activity they offer is and how many people do it. It's also key to make sure that the child never gets stuck in the middle for a battle for their time. Children who are doing all these different things sometimes can face that. So we've got to make sure that if you're interested in sport or science or music or maths, drama or Duke of Edinburgh or any of the other things that we all offer, that they can actually have it all and not feel under pressure. As well as having that huge range of things to do, we must, of course, have the people to inspire them. And the staff in our schools, I know in my experience and in all other of my colleagues' schools, you want your staff to be as interested in learning as they are in teaching. And staff development, encouraging further study, academic societies led by the sixth form and the staff that go way outside the curriculum are the really good ways to open up these new interests. On every job description, we have number one point for me is a positive outlook and a sense of humour. And I truly feel that these are qualities within certainly my current staff room, and everyone from the catering team to the chemistry department, the grounds to the geographers and everyone in between has to really be there signing up to this positive attitude. I really believe that every child needs to have at least one significant adult in their life at school. We can't, as parents, always choose who that will be. So making sure that all the staff in your school are signed up to this combined vision of seeing pupils achieve their potential is the very best way of making sure that they have these real significant role models that they can be inspired by. Secondly, obviously our children themselves need to be the architects of their own future, and right from the start, a good school needs to have the sense of opportunity, independence and leadership in the school programme. And here at Cheltenham, we certainly like to get to know our pupils way before they arrive, and we know that they've been the top of their prep schools and will have had significant leadership opportunities before they come. We don't want to lose that interest or that ability in any sense. So we run a leadership and life skills programme alongside the foundation project qualification and the third form challenge throughout the first year to make sure that they're thinking outside the box and learning new skills and making friends outside their houses or their classes. We certainly don't want to waste a minute of their time, and we want them to contribute to this, their new family. So alongside those things, we have a real culture of speaking your mind here at college. And that's why it's really important that I think for me that I'm standing up here today, because in the chapel, which seats about 750 pupils plus another 100 staff, we meet every day of the week at the moment, we're still doing that, but in year group bubbles, as we now have that commonly used phrase. And the pupils can come and speak. They do 3 or 4 times a week. The services and the talks are led by pupils, and they talk about every single thing that they want. They can choose a topic and raise that with their friends. And that's not just the prefects, not just the upper sixth, it's all of the younger years that contribute to that too. So this kind of sense of being able to develop your own knowledge, really enjoy what you do in all the different ranges of the school area, but also actually contribute to leading others is one of the things that we really pride ourselves on. And obviously you might just be able to peek out and see we've got the school colours on the altar for remembrance this week. We have a real history of leadership in the school, obviously right back from days gone by of our foundation in the 1840s. And finally then, what can we as parents do to help our children to achieve their potential? I have 4 children of my own with varying levels of challenge accompanying them. So I really do know what you're going through if you feel already that you have the odd struggle with a teenager. And we have a special part to play in our children's future. We want to make sure that we can support them, but sometimes it can be a bit counterintuitive. Sometimes we need to know when to step into the background, and sometimes we need to know when to step forward, and there are different times for this. A good school really needs to recognise that we're in partnership with you, and that we've got to help guide you as parents, ourselves and the pupils through this. It is, without doubt, amazingly difficult to get it right with teenagers. If you encourage them to come and sit down and have a nice cosy chat, then obviously you're being suffocating and intrusive. And if you let them get on with it, then clearly you don't care. So having lived alongside 55 teenage girls for 8 years as a house mistress myself, I still find teenagers a challenge, my own especially. So I think as parents, sometimes we can struggle with the concept that our children are really so much nicer to other people's parents or even at school than they are to us. But I really believe that, in my experience, teenagers who are secure at home have to test their developing personality out on the people least likely to reject them for bad behaviour. And that, of course, can be all of us mums and dads. So in helping our children to achieve their full potential, you can make the all-important choice of the environment that you want for them, the kind of school that you choose, and so that they can rely on the routines and the people who are here to care for them. To help them achieve their potential, we have to let them see that boundaries are part of the world, but if you are happy to start to live alongside each other in these kind of, in our kind of situation, then the rest of the world of opportunity has no boundaries. So I would just finish off by saying,
you need to finish.
very much for listening. I know you're going to call time, so thank you so much for listening this morning. And obviously, we'd love to see you if you ever when things open up again. We'd love to see you then. Thanks, William.
Nicola, thank you so much. And starting the morning there with exactly what we're trying to get across, which is, you know, whilst these schools, many of them are steeped in wonderful history and tradition, as we can visually see behind Nicola there, the words she was using to describe what the school is doing is in fact very modern, contemporary thinking, and that's exactly what our wonderful public schools around the country tend to exemplify these days. Without further ado, because we're running over already, which is the nature of these things, but don't panic, we'll get to everyone. We're going to cut to Pangbourne College in Berkshire, and Thomas Garnier, who is the headmaster there, and he's finally decided on the side of the frame that he is going to be on. I've been watching him switch left to right. Thomas, over to you. It's a great shot you've got now. Thomas at Pangbourne, thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. It's lovely to be with you. I have indeed been trying to find the best side of the camera so that you can see the group behind me who are struggling to get their heads around how to move an egg around a course using string and teamwork. What I want to do is just give you a brief introduction to Pangbourne. I'm very grateful to Nicola's very thorough introduction into really what we're all trying to do in our different ways. But every school has a slightly different flavour. We're a small school, 460 pupils, situated in 230 acres of area of outstanding natural beauty, so half an acre each. There's lots of space, and I'm just recording this or broadcasting this from a very small corner of our beautiful site, which with our adventurous training store and centre in the background. And what I want to talk to you this morning is about how we develop values and leadership. Our ethos is very much about being a caring community that seeks to inspire learning and develop confidence, skills and values so that our young people can make a positive difference to the world. That's what we're about. And values are a really important part of that. We have 7 core values, the flag values: kindness, selflessness, moral courage, industry, initiative, resilience and integrity. There are obviously lots of values one could choose, but these are, if you like, the kind of basic set that we believe will help to form a strong and resilient character, and one which will enable our young people to make that positive difference. And there are really no secrets or shortcuts to developing values, are there? It's fundamentally, they need lots of reminders, and we do remind our pupils and our staff indeed about our values all the time, through assemblies, through individual conversations. It has to be about modelling, and I expect the staff to model those values, however imperfectly, and for the pupils to try to do the same. It's the way that the students and the staff interact with one another, which I think is a particular feature of our school and is commented on many, many times. And it's through those positive interactions, staff with pupils, senior pupils with particularly, that values are and caught rather than just being taught. So the whole community has to sign up to them. And we've been using these flag values for about 14 years now. And one man said to me once, time spent on values is not time wasted. It's like the tide rising. Everything rises with it. And that's certainly been our experience here at Pangbourne. Now, one of the other distinctive features of this school, in addition to offering a broad all-round curriculum, is our emphasis on teamwork and leadership in particular. And Nicola talked about how Cheltenham approaches their leadership in their school, in their context, and we do it in ours through our challenge curriculum. And we have a challenge curriculum which everyone is involved. So all our Year 9 students take part in the Bronze Award, Duke of Edinburgh Bronze Award. All of them join the Combined Cadet Force for at least a year. All of them in Year 10. Most of them go on and do the Silver Award in Year 11. And then there's a choice in the 6th form, and about a third will go on and do Gold. So there's quite a big emphasis on Duke of Edinburgh. And then in the 6th form, we spend a lot of time working with our 6th formers through what's called the Taking Responsibility programme. And that involves thinking about what's involved in teamwork, thinking about what's involved in good leadership, and trying to get across the idea of leadership as service. So the perks of leadership, the rewards of leadership, are seeing other people's lives improve. Very much the model we've tried to demonstrate. And then giving opportunity to our 6th formers in particular to look after younger pupils, obviously in a supervised context, but learning to practice those skills of leadership. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wander over. I'm going to try and see if this works. We're going to go live, and we're going mobile. I'm going to wander over to this group and ask Callum, where he is, to come over. Here he is. I have prepared him slightly just to ask him a couple of questions. Callum, tell me, what are you doing here, and what do you think you're learning through it?
So one of the tasks we've got to do is we've got to get an egg from A to B with using the ropes and the carabiners, and try work as a team, how to get the egg from A to B. And one of the big skills as well as we're working on is communication. So everyone's got so many different ideas. We've got to talk, find out the best one to get the egg across.
Great, thanks. And Callum, you've been at the school for 4.5 years. What would you say you've most enjoyed or valued about being here?
What I value the most is how friendly and kind teachers are working with me on academics. I feel the help I've got over the last 4 years has been so beneficial to where I am today. Great. Callum, thanks very much. Perfect.
Good luck
Thank
with
you.
the egg. So there we are. We're going to go back to my tripod, which is on the side. And you know, all our pupils, we've got a pretty broad spectrum of ability within the school, and interests as well. Last week, a load of students were taking their assessment tests for Oxford, and I think a medical one is today. And we've got others who need a lot more help and support. And our aim is to try and understand the needs of every child, as I think Nicola said a moment ago as well, and to help you to find the best school for your son or daughter. So do please make contact. We'd love to explore the option more with you and to show you more of what we believe is a lovely school. Thank you. I think I've stuck to time, and I'll hand back to William.
Thomas, thank you so much. Wonderful to hear from you, and of course to see the young gentleman in action behind you. Without further ado, we will move to Sherborne School in Dorset, where we have a blast from my past, Dr. Dominic Luckett, who was a beak at Harrow very recently. Don't worry about the lack of hair. I balded very young. I'm still well in my 20s. Dr. Luckett at Sherborne, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for including us in this, despite the fact that I once taught you, which normally puts most people off for life. It's really lovely to have an opportunity to talk, although obviously we wish we were all together in the same place, but I'm sure next year we will be. Now, I'm here with our head of school, Jono. They don't let me out to do these things on my own for understandable reasons, but Jono's going to say a few things to put some flesh on the bones in a moment. But I thought it might be just helpful to say a few things about Sherborne for those who don't know us at all. We're very old school. We trace our origins back to the 8th century, and that may even be a true fact. But the important thing, of course, as has been said, you were saying earlier, well, it's not about how old or how grand the school is. It's about what the school does now and how well it prepares the boys, in our case, for the future. In terms of the sort of things that make us, I think, special, we're in this lovely Dorset town, but we're still only just about 2 hours from London, and we've got a station right in the town, which really helps a lot of our families who live in London and intermediate points. We're a boarding school, and we're a proper boarding school in that we don't empty out at weekends, and that gives us so much more time to do the huge range of things that the boys get involved in. We pride ourselves on that breadth of education, and academically our boys do extremely well. We normally get around sort of 50% A&A star at A level, which is great and sees the boys go off to those top universities. But the really important thing is the value added, the statistical measure of the progress our boys make, which puts us right in the top 5% of schools in this country. And that's what education should be about. It shouldn't be about confirming where you are. It should be allowing to go wherever you want to go, as long as you're well supported and as long as you put the effort in. I think the other thing about our academic results that's really important is that they're not obtained at the expense of other things. Our boys are phenomenally busy doing a huge range of things. And there's a vast array of clubs and societies and activities they can get involved in. And as Nikki was saying at Cheltenham, it shouldn't be about just what the majority do. It should be what about that individual boy who doesn't fit into a particular mould, and all children are different, and all children should be exposed to a huge range of things, so their difference can be a point of real positivity, and they can thrive and flourish as the young people they are and the young people they want to be. In terms of our co-curricular programme, I suppose the real strengths are sport and music, and I think we're absolutely world-class for music. And it's one of the real joys of being here, just listening to boys performing, boys indeed like Jono. Now, those actually aren't the things I want to talk about, because all those things are important, and achieving success and doing well, that's a tremendously important thing. But actually, there are two other things I want to talk about. And one is something Thomas was talking about, and it is so important, is values. The reason I came here, and the reason I am so happy here, is the boys are fabulous and lovely. And that's because they've got a real sense of values, of kindness, of decency, of looking out for other people. And at this point, to give you some respite from me, I'm going to ask Jono. Now, Jono, you've been here for almost as long as I have. Can you say something about the sort of values of the school from the pupil perspective?
Yeah, so I think actually that the values of the school tie in quite nicely with what you were saying about kind of individuality with boys. So as we said, every boy is different, and here the kindness and respect that boys give each other allows each boy to do what they want to do and achieve what they want to achieve, and which helps them to have the best time they possibly can here. And then I think actually once you get into the sixth form, another one of our key values would be kind of leadership, but within that, being a role model to the younger boys, helping them when they need help, not only when they start and guiding them through their time at the school, but whenever they need your help. I think it's important for the sixth form to always be there for the younger boys.
And John, I think, as you said, it's important for all sorts of reasons, but one of the things, particularly in a boarding school environment, is you want the boys to be happy, and that comes from being in a community where people sort of care about them and look after them, and just not rigid hierarchies within the school. And I think that's something that's not of my making, but it's just sort of deep within the Sherborne DNA.
Yeah, certainly. I think it kind of stems just from kindness and everyone having respect for each other and wanting to get the best out of everyone for the school.
Yeah. Now, I'm aware that we're coming up to time, but there's one more thing that I want to talk about, although it's going to be picked up in the next talk when you're going to hear from the fabulous headmistress of Sherborne Girls. We are a boys' school, and for all sorts of reasons, we're really pleased to be a boys' school and proud of being a boys' school. But boys should not go through their time at school without having any meaningful contact or interaction with girls. And Sherborne Girls, we are uniquely placed. We're a boys' boarding school in this lovely town, and Sherborne Girls are a girls' boarding school in this lovely town. And of course, we coordinate all sorts of things like term dates and exeats and whatever to make sure that the logistics work for parents, many of whom have children at both schools. But there's so much more than that. There are joint clubs and activities and sport and music and drama and all sorts of other things that the boys and girls do together. And again, Jono, I know you're involved in a million things. Many of them are Sherborne Girls. Could you just tell us how that all works again from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think actually the separate yet together and not being in the same school allows the boys actually to get the most out of their academics and actually really concentrate in class. And that's great. But then there's things outside of academics, such as kind of sport and music. And once you reach sixth form, we've got a kind of joint prefect meeting. But I think actually those things aren't as important as the ability just to have friendships with girls, real friendships, which allow you just to have some downtime and ask a friend up at the girls' school to come down and have a coffee in town. I think that's something that all the boys value greatly.
And again, before I started here, just wandering up and down Cheap Street, which is our high street, and it was lovely just seeing groups of boys and girls sort of wandering around together, going to have a cup of coffee. Of course, can't do it at the moment because everything's shut, but ordinarily they do that. And it is, and I think Ruth may well say something about this, it's something that really does make us unique. I know two boarding schools who have that good fortune to be next to each other and work together. John, I thank you so much. It's been really good of you to give up the time to do this. You'll have noticed, I'm sure by watching this, Jono is fabulous, but so is every other boy in the school. They're all like you, aren't they, Jono? Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, Will.
Dominic and John, thank you very much indeed. Lovely again to hear from a real life student there. I just want to repeat for all my speakers, please try and keep it quite tight. Everyone's running a little over, so I'm being lenient. I don't want to be unfair to those who've been patiently waiting. As Dr. Luckett said, we will now be going to the other notable boarding school in Sherborne, Sherborne Girls, of course, where we will find the headmistress, Dr. Ruth Sullivan, who is joining us now. Ruth, over to you.
Great, thank you ever so much. And many, many thanks to Nikki, to Thomas, to Dominic, and also to Jono. Thank you all for speaking before me. And many thanks to all the parents out there who have joined us this morning. Your time is really, really appreciated. A quick note that actually, because we're running a little bit later now, we're running into break, I'm actually standing in our new art centre called the Merit Centre, which also has a cafe behind me. So if in a few minutes you see lots of people wandering around, it will be the girls coming up to collect breaks. So apologies if we are interrupted slightly. So building on what other heads have said earlier, actually it's really important when you look for the right school for your child to take time to research, and that is what you are doing today. You may know that Nikki Huggett and I both wrote an article opposing sides, basically looking at whether single sex or co-ed is the right thing for you. And I really encourage you to read that article. It was in the Week Independent Schools Guide back in sort of September or so. I'll come back to that in a moment. Here at Sherborne Girls, very, very similar to Sherborne School, as Dr. Luckett has already said, we are a full boarding school. About 90% of our pupils board 7 days a week. That means that we have a huge amount of time and a huge amount of opportunities for the girls to get involved in. Our weekends are just as important as our weekdays. It also means that the time that the girls may have previously been commuting, if they've been going to a day school, they can now spend doing the activities that they want to. And actually, case in point, I am an old girl of Sherborne Girls, and I joined the school 32 years ago, so many of you can work out how old I am. I joined 32 years ago, but from a London day school, and that will probably resonate with many of you out there. I was at a really academic girls' day school in the City of London and came down to Sherborne Girls because actually I realised how much time I was losing being able to do all the activities I really, really wanted to because I was travelling into the centre of London every day. So here, very similar to Sherborne School, the girls can take part in activities in the evenings, in the morning, they can practice musical instruments after school. So it really is a wonderful opportunity. We can have additional academic clinics after school as well if the girls want to partake in those. Because we are an all-girls school, one of the things is it's fantastic that every subject is the preserve of the girls. Every leadership opportunity is the preserve of the girls. We don't have gendered subjects. In some schools, it may be that there's a predominance of boys doing physics or economics. Here, physics, economics are just as popular as English or history or art, etc. So that's a kind of full boarding. The other thing, as Dr. Luckett has said, and also Jono referred to a few minutes ago, is we have this really unique offering, separate yet together, the best of both worlds. The girls up here can go into lessons, they can be themselves, they have no distractions, they can ask whatever they want to. They don't need to worry about social conformity and worrying about what they look like every minute of every day. But they want to build meaningful relationships with the opposite sex because life is very co-educational. And therefore, exactly as John said, we have masses of opportunities. The girls have combined cadet force now with Sherborne School, joint debating, joint music, joint drama. The girls and the boys, the school's only about 2 or 3 minutes walk away from each other. Lots of families, about 70 families, have boys down at Sherborne School and girls up here. The siblings can see each other after school, at the weekend. So we have a wonderful, wonderful ability to offer the best of both worlds. Equally, the girls don't worry up here if they come back from a sporting activity or they've been out on CCF or on Duke of Edinburgh's expedition, they're head to toe in mud. We're accepting, we love it. We love to get involved in lots of things. Nikki Huggett spoke earlier about some unique opportunities at different schools and really finding that thing. Here, one of the main things we are really keen on is empowering our young women to have a voice. We have girls sitting on the local town council. We have girls involved in medical patient participation groups. That was a tongue twister. And all of these opportunities allow the girls to develop
communication skills, inner confidence. At the moment, we have girls helping us rewrite many of our policies, especially potentially looking at parent contracts. The girls want to be involved in all of these things. It's wonderful. Two more very quick things. Exactly as Dr. Luckett said from Sherborne School, we are about a 2-hour train journey from London. So many of our girls here are from London. It's wonderful. They come down to us at the beginning of term, and then we have an escorted train back up to London for exeats and half-term breaks. But whilst they're here, they can get so involved in all of the activities. Weekends, our weekend programme is really, really busy. We might be taking year 9 fossil hunting down at the beach. Girls might be zorbing, they might be having a black tie evening, they might be tree climbing, all manner of things. Every weekend there's a really clear programme, many of those activities in conjunction with Sherborne School. And lastly, we have the most phenomenal digital programme and strategy here. We started rolling this out over about 16 months ago, following 2 of my senior staff going to Singapore and finding out about what was going on over there. As a result, we actually brought in an initiative that every pupil member staff had to have a pen-enabled device over a year ago. So when the first lockdown happened in March, we transitioned really smoothly to online learning, and every lesson was live. Absolutely superb. Not only that, we've also encouraged one of the staff from Singapore to come over, who is now a digital technologist in residence. So he is also working with Sherborne School. So all I'd like to say is we really would welcome a visit from you, either to one of our virtual tour mornings or, when restrictions permit, back here at Sherborne Girls. We have the most wonderful site, wonderful pupils, as I'm sure you will agree if you're able to visit us. Thank you ever so much. Back over to you.
Ruth, thank you so much, and I'm glad to see that break didn't infringe upon that broadcast. I've been enjoying some fantastic prep on my panelist screen from Millfield. James Postle, registrar, is poised there, and he is about to show us that you should not be scared of working with animals and children, and definitely not simultaneously. James, lovely to have you. And James at Millfield, over to you.
William, thank you very much. You've stolen my opening line. Hello, William, I hope you can hear me. You've stolen my opening line, which is in a school, never worked with animals and children. And I've got both here actually today. I'm joined by Clever, and this is Mr. Danny Anholt, who's our Director of Equestrian. We're just down here at the Equestrian Centre, and Clever is 9 years old and one of our Millfield school horses, and is one of our very successful team. We've won Hickstead over the last 3 years, I think, Danny, isn't it? And we have in total about 60 horses on site, and it's one of the great activities that we can do here at Millfield. In fact, the indoor centre is just behind us, and the pupils will be using that later on at break time. We might see a few wander past with horses when they get a chance to ride. It's one of the many different activities that we can offer here in the southwest at all the schools you've been seeing, and in the countryside we get to have lots of space where we can have people doing activities. But of course, it's not all about the facilities. It's about the other areas of the school life as well. And we are very much a school. Academics come very much first and foremost for us. We have a wonderful sporting and extracurricular reputation, but our music, our drama, and all other aspects are also important. So we want to get the combination of all of those things for our boys and girls at the school. We are the largest co-ed boarding school in the UK from age 13 to 18. So we have just under 1,300 pupils. Average class size, only 12. Our maximum is 14. So although we're a big school, we're a small school. We very much know everybody within the community, and we really pride that. We are very much a boarding school. We're a full boarding school. We have around about 300 day pupils and 970 full boarders. We are 80% British families, 20% international, from over 70 different countries. And we really value that diversity of where all our international pupils come from. We don't have more than about 30 from any one country. It's a really good spread. We like that. We have a lot of British expats as well. We have 250 British expat families who join us, who've been living overseas. Sometimes the horses come from overseas as well. I think Clever's British though, isn't she?
No, she's Danish.
Danish! There we have. Even the horses come from around the world as well. So that's very much a part of our sort of DNA and makeup. We are, as I said, mainly a full boarding school, and that is very important for those activities we have at the weekends and the facilities we enjoy here as well. I'm going to pan around a little bit here. Clever, you just stay there a second. I'm going to pan around a little bit here. I'm just going to show you a bit of context. You can see the indoor riding centre here behind us. And as we come around, we've just got break time starting. We have, looking up in the distance, we have our dining hall, our classrooms. We have an AstroTurf behind me here. And the main academic parts of the school up in this direction. And as we pan around in this direction, we're going to see just coming through behind the stables and behind Ellie, who's going to speak to us shortly. We're going to see a couple of boarding houses just in the background. There's Jamie there as well. So our boarding houses are really quite close in this part of the school as well. So our facilities are very much in this part. We've got Jamie and Ellie who have joined us here, and Clever's going to have a word as she goes as well. I'll ask her a question in a second too. But Jamie, I wonder if I could ask you, introduce yourself a little bit about yourself briefly. How long have you been here, Jamie, and what are you hoping to do?
I'm Jamie. I've been here since year 6, and now it's been 6 years, going on to my 7th year, and I'm hoping to study in the States for university.
Great, Jamie. And if I was going to ask you what makes a Millfield pupil, what would you say?
I think what makes a Millfield pupil is a pupil who's willing to discover their brilliance, and it can be very relative to yourself, whether it be in the academic classroom, in the music halls, or on the sports field. It's as long as you're willing to put that effort in from the start and follow through to the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Fantastic. I'm just going to turn to Ellie here as well. We'll pan around and see if we have Ellie into the shot. There she is. And Ellie, introduce yourself, a little bit about yourself in just 30 seconds.
Hi, I'm Ellie. I've been at Millfield since year 9, and I'm looking to study history of art at university.
And you've got a special talent, have you, Ellie? What do you enjoy doing at school?
I play a lot of golf. I've also been a part of the netball programme since I joined, but I'm specialising in my last year.
And if I had to ask you what a unique selling point of Millfield is, what would you say?
So for me, the unique selling point of Millfield was definitely the opportunity to pursue my academics alongside my sport, because I was dedicating so much of my time to it. And also, you know, our community is so large here and so diverse, you know, pupils and staff, that it means there's always somebody who's willing to support you to kind of push you further and achieve what you want to.
Thank you, Ellie. That's fantastic. We're going to pan back to Jamie. Jamie, if I was going to ask you, what have you enjoyed most about your time at Millfield? What would be your favourite memory?
I think it's got to be definitely just the community feel that I get at Millfield, especially coming through the prep school and now into the senior school, just being part of that brotherhood in my boarding house. I've really enjoyed it and got to know everyone around the school. Thank you. Thank
you, Jamie. And Ellie, final question for you. If we were going to ask you to sum Millfield up for you, if you could just sum it up in 2 or 3 words, what would you say about Millfield?
For me, my experience, I was going to sum it up, probably friends, opportunity, and creativity.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, guys. And I'm just going to pan back here. Final word, Clever. Anything from you? Would you like to say anything for us?
She'd like to say how much she loves being here.
She'd like to say how much she enjoys being here. So that is us from a sunny-ish Millfield down in the southwest. How's that, Will?
Excellent. Excellent. James, thank you very much. For those of you not in the know, the film world, that panning is called fluid panning, and was done excellently despite internet streaming from the West Country. It was really very good. Lovely to hear from the horse and, of course, your students. We will crack straight on, and waiting for us slightly closer to London and Wiltshire at the indomitable Marlborough College is the Director of Admissions, Hodden, in beautiful Marlborough College Library. Julia, over to you.
Thanks, Will, so much. Can you see me? As Will said, I'm the Director of Admissions here at Marlborough, and I am speaking to you from our Memorial Library. We are a full boarding school, a large boarding school, just over 1,000 pupils, and a mixed school. And like all the great schools that you've heard from so far today, we offer a really broad curriculum with excellent pastoral care and a vast range of co-curricular opportunities. But I've been asked to speak to you today quite specifically about science and technology education in the 21st century. Like much of Marlborough, this library is full of history and tradition, and it's a space which has inspired generations of Marlburian learners. But despite our long traditions and our deeply historical setting, we are very much a school in the present, looking to provide a very contemporary education and to equip our pupils for life in the 21st century. Now, as a full boarding school, we develop all the skills of independence, resilience, adaptability, and self-knowledge that come from living in a community and experiencing a vast and diverse co-curricular programme. But we are looking to deliver these experiences not just through our pastoral and co-curricular programme, but also in the classroom as well. And to this end, we are currently building our new innovation centre and completely refurbishing our science block, which will provide a real opportunity for us to enhance our STEM teaching. Now, I use the term STEM, science, technology, education, and maths. And in fact, sometimes this is now being referred to as STEAM, with arts added into that as well. And the idea of STEM is that knowledge is simply not neatly boxed into physics, chemistry, biology, maths, geography, English, computer science. All of us that live and work in the real world know that knowledge is, of course, a continuum. And there is a great deal of thinking that says we should be teaching our science and technology much more as an integrated subject and much less in divided boxes. Why do we need to do this? We taught science successfully, separately for decades, centuries perhaps, and there's been some extraordinary innovations. But of course, the world is changing. And we are arguably experiencing what they call the fourth industrial revolution, with the loss of large numbers of traditional jobs and the creation of many that we can't even imagine. The figures say that 65% of children entering school today will be working in jobs we simply don't know exist. We can't know that figure, we cannot know the future. But what we do know is that we will need to be preparing children to be lifelong learners who are adaptable, who are resilient to change, and who really have a broad portfolio of skills. So how is it that we can teach that through our science teaching? Well, the first thing to say is that you can't abandon good science. You do need good science. Without good science, there would be no COVID vaccine. It is really, really important to teach children really excellent science. But we've also got to teach them how to learn, because their science education won't stop at school because the world is changing too fast, and they're going to have to be learners who are independent, who can learn themselves and keep their learning updating as they move through life. So one of our jobs is to teach them how to be good, independent learners with the confidence to learn for themselves. We also need to teach them communication and collaboration. It's no good being the most brilliant scientist if you cannot bring your idea to market, if you can't develop the logistics that are needed to support it, if you can't work with people with other skills who will help you actually bring your product to market. You've got to be, in this day and age, a good collaborator. Nobody will be a success on their own. So we have to teach children to learn to work together and to with each other collaboratively, and to be able to communicate well with each other. And we also have to teach our scientists to be creative and innovative. It's a crowded market, and science is developing all the time. And if your creations are going to stand out, if you are going to be the one that is going to make it, you've got to be creative, you've got to be innovative. So we've got to teach children to think outside the box and to work with perhaps non-scientists, artists, people with real creative flair, to work with our scientists to make their science a success. So how do we do this? Well, some of the current thinking suggests that you use what are called maker spaces. These have been in universities for a long time, where you can bring everybody together, large spaces where you can make real life-size prototypes. These are very important now in science teaching. You should also give pupils real-life problems, ask them to work in groups, give them a target audience. Who are you actually creating your product for? And actually, when they've created their product, require them to present their product and market it. Actually tell people, explain to people what it is they've done. And all of this is what we're hoping to do in our new Innovation Centre. Now, I'm going to be brave and try and share my screen with you, which I am hoping I will be able to do. Just a moment. A slight risk here. Okay. Okay, so here is, I hope you can see that. Here is an image of our new innovation centre that is currently being constructed. It sits on the banks of our beautiful chalk stream, the River Kennet, that runs through the college grounds. You can see our chapel there in the background, and the white building is our new science block, which we are also busy recreating. There it is currently. This picture was taken about 3 weeks ago. You can see it's currently under development, and this new centre should be ready for use in the summer term. So what will it have that will enhance our science and technology learning at Marlborough? Well, it will have absolutely state-of-the-art machinery to allow pupils to create and build their ideas. It's going to have collaboration spaces to allow children to work together. Scientists, artists, all sorts of children with different skills come together in the centre. And there will then be spaces for children to present their ideas to an audience, to learn to have the confidence to stand up, to explain what they've done, and to learn to market their skills. And collaboration is absolutely at the heart of what we're doing. We already have links with SCAD in America, with BICO, the engineering company, and we're looking to develop those further, as well as with our local community, so that this becomes a really collaborative space for doing excellent science. This will go hand in hand with the redevelopment of our science block for the teaching of the really good science, and this will be ready for 2022. It's not to say that we are not already teaching good STEM science at Marlborough. We regularly send our children on Head Starts and small piece residential courses. In fact, one of our teachers here is a tutor on one of the small piece courses. We're involved in the engineering education scheme. We run trips, most recently to CERN and to the Kennedy Space Centre to see proper science and technology in action, more on a smaller scale at school. We have Drone Club, the Rocket Roadshow, and much, much more. But it really is an exciting time for science and technology teaching at Marlborough as we look to move our pupils and prepare them for a science education in the 21st century. Thank you so much for listening. Do please get in touch. We're running virtual visits, and of course, as soon as we're allowed, we would love to welcome you back onto campus. Thank you very much.
Right, sorry, my screen has disappeared there. Thank you, Julia, very, very much. Wonderful to see the incredible plans being laid there for the new STEM facilities at Marlborough College, particularly on the backdrop of that rather fabulous original Art Deco building slash modernist. We've got 2 fabulous schools left to explore in the West Country, starting with Queen Anne's School, Caversham. Been far too long since I've been for a visit. Beautiful all-girls school, and we're joined in well, I actually don't know. We're going to find out. I can see the skirting board, so I don't think the pond is real. But we're joined in front of an impressive cyclorama / wall painting with the headmistress, Julia Harrington, and 2 senior girls. Julia, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, welcome to Queen Anne's. I'm with Zara and Tilly. Sorry, Zara and Tilly today, and we're actually in New York Central Park. We're not, of course, really in New York Central Park. We're in sunny Berkshire. We are in the space. The space is a building that we opened a few years ago now, and it's all about creativity. It's part of our Brain Can Do program, where we look at how the brain works and how we can be the best and most creative beings that we are. So this was designed by some of our girls. We have 2 other rooms a little bit like this. One is Big Ben and the other one is a theatre. But the girls and I have chosen to be in New York Central Park today because we thought it would be a bit uplifting because there's so much uncertainty and of course we are in lockdown. I've been asked to talk about the ways in which we as a boarding school, and we're a boarding and day school, we're about 50% boarding, 50% day, and we have full boarders, flexi boarders, and weekly boarders. How have we coped with COVID and the anxieties that have arisen around COVID? And has it made boarding different? So the reason that I've asked Zara and Tilly to join us is Zara's been boarding with us for your 6th year, I think, Zara, and Tilly's only just started boarding now. So we were having a chat earlier on to say, so what are the differences? And I mean, Zara, you were telling me that actually you haven't found it very different. So I'm going to hand over to you for it.
Well, so this is, as Ms. Harrington said, my 6th year of boarding. I'm a full boarder, so I board 7 days a week. And honestly, COVID hasn't really affected the way boarding life has been for me. Because I'm in the senior house, so I'm in a room by myself, I kind of just do as I usually do. In this perspective of a junior girl, I think boarding still is the same as well, because you're just in your house, you're with all your friends. I particularly love boarding because I feel it's like I'm having a sleepover with all my friends every single day. So yeah, COVID hasn't really affected this.
And have you found the changes to the one-way systems and all of the things that we've had to do to be COVID safe? Has that impacted on you?
Not really. As in at first, you know, like when was obviously been here for 5 years, it'd be a bit weird not going around the usual way to maths, or, you know, cutting a different way to science. But it was kind of interesting, actually. It was a bit of an adventure because I've discovered some parts of school I never discovered before. Got rerouted through one of the day houses into the front of the school, so I was like, oh, this is a bit different.
Yeah.
But, it was just, yeah, you just kind of get used to it at this point.
Yeah, I found a few areas I haven't been to before as well.
Yeah.
So Tilly, what's it been like for you coming into boarding?
Yeah, so this
COVID?
is my first year boarding. I've been a day girl for the last 5 years, so I don't really know much different to boarding. But from what everyone's told me, I don't think much has changed, as Zara just said. But yeah, it's just really nice, and just getting to know everyone a bit more, because some girls who were boarding when I was a day girl, I didn't really get to know as much as I do now. So it's really nice just gaining closer friendships. And yeah, it's just getting work done as well, especially with Zara with training for discus.
I should explain, Zara is the world under-18 champion discus thrower, actually. So, and you didn't know this when you joined the school, did you, Zara? We were talking actually while everyone was coming on about how you discovered that.
Yeah,
and
it's so when I started Queen Anne's, I kind of discovered I had quite a lot of potential in the event, because I started from year 7, and then I joined my local club where I found my coach. And boarding has kind of made our dynamic as a training duo different, but it's kind of helped me a lot as well, because I'm at school where I can focus on my academics and I'm in an academic environment, but our school has so many facilities where I can still go and train, and it's not affected how I've thrown or my performance at all. But yeah, it's kind of just been a different way of approaching it. At first it was kind of different because whereas some people would be able to have face-to-face contact with their coach all the time, I've kind of been coached virtually, but I think that's kind of made me and my coach better, and kind of made me... Has
that been during lockdown? Or
during lockdown, and then during school as well, because I trained during school time as well. So, but it's definitely made me more disciplined as well, because I have to be very, very strict with myself. It's developed my time management as well.
So that's boarding's been helpful with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Tilly, you mentioned earlier that actually it's been nice to get back to amongst your friends, because we were talking about, do you feel anxious in school?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain a bit more about that?
Well, because we're now in bubbles because of the COVID, it's actually worked out quite well, because we're all in our year group, so it doesn't really impact us as much as probably other years maybe. But just being together and all having, because we have like a main common room for day girls and boarders, I feel like that makes it a lot easier and more comfortable when dealing with the anxieties of COVID and boarding. So
because we're all together,
exactly.
We have like a communal place where we can all sit and chat, and it doesn't really feel any different because we're just all together.
Okay. Thank you very much, girls. I hope we've given you a bit of a taste for how we're facing COVID, and how we actually try to be as creative as possible, even though the world is an uncertain place.
Julia, young ladies, thank you very much indeed. And wonderful to hear a fluid conversation there with students, and also to hear about the realities of what we're all experiencing with COVID, but from the perspective of a boarding school, and learning that, you know, they're dealing, they're going through anxiety too, but just seeing the amazing resilience of boarding schools because of the nature of their ability to isolate, quarantine, etc. Actually, we've, you know, it's been wonderful post-lockdown and now into this new one to see them continue at the same level they did pre the pandemic. It's a shining light amidst all the gloom. Now we are heading over to our final school, Monkton Combe in Bath, and an extremely patient Ross Wolverson, head of English strategic partnerships, is waiting in their beautiful grounds in a little idyllic Monkton Combe area. And over to you, Ross. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you. No, thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me well? I hope that you can. I hope that you can all hear me. Fantastic. So, good morning, and I feel like a weatherman being stood outside. Welcome to arguably a hidden gem in the independent school sector. Welcome to Monkton Combe School here in Bath. We're about a mile away from the World Heritage City of Bath City Centre, and as Will said, we're located really in a quite idyllic valley, 100 acres altogether. I am Ross Wolverson, I'm Director of Partnerships, and I'm also Head of English here at the Senior School. And the reason why I'm speaking to you today and not to our head teacher is because what's very much a part of the ethos of Moncton is that it's our school community that belongs to all of us. And so who better to speak to you in the southeast of England than actually a full-time teacher who lives and breathes every day the ethos of our school. You find me here in the centre of the academic quad of the Senior School. And so if you see behind me is our art and design block. In the distance, you'll see my domain, so English and Performing Arts. Directly behind me, the Maths and Science Centre, and then finishing with the chapel. And it's right for Monkton Combe that our chapel is at the heart of our school. Choosing a school for your child is one of the most difficult decisions that you can make, and especially choosing a boarding school where your child is going to be away from you for an extended period of time. So I want to speak to you simply and honestly today about my school. Monkton Combe is a small Christian boarding school. And when I say small, we have about 850 students from our pre-prep to our prep school to our senior. So it's all through from ages 3 up until 18. A boarding school. Boarding is absolutely at the heart of what we are here at Moncton. 2/3 of our students are boarders, which means we are open 24 hours a day, seemingly 50 kind of weeks of the 52 weeks of the year. And it really speaks to who we are and our identity as a school, that actually our day pupils join boarding houses and are not excluded if they're a day student as well. And actually the boarding experience is what makes Moncton different. We have a boarding house at our prep school, Hatton House. We also have 6 boarding schools down here at our senior school. Speaking about the chapel, we are unashamedly a Christian school. And what that means is that we live and breathe the Christian ethos that our school is built on. The 4 core tenets of what it means to be a Moncton student, which is confidence, it's service, it's integrity, and it's humility. And here we have another one of our quads inside of our school as well, in the distance, one of our boarding houses. So what does it mean to come to Moncton? Well, to come to Moncton means you really are well known. There are only 400 students in the senior school, and we've kept it like that for a reason. We've actually found that in the last 7 to 8 weeks, we've had a year's worth of inquiries to our school that we would expect across an academic calendar year. And actually the vast majority of inquiries are coming from the southeast market. So there seems to be definitely a change in direction, and definitely lots of parents beyond the southwest looking to move here. And in terms of what we value as a school, we like to say that we think differently, and at Moncton we really do. So for instance, we appreciate and we celebrate failure. Our head teacher, Chris Wheeler, has actually run a failure series, because if you're failing, it means that you're trying. And if you're failing, it means that you're human. And all of us at times face adversities, and all of us at times face failures. And so it's powerful for students and for staff to share our messages together, and that just brings us closer together as a community. Of course, it's also right that we share our success. And just like the 7 other schools, we have a huge tranche of students who every year go on to Oxbridge, go on to study all the top flight subjects universities that one would expect. And of course, what is our main strength here at our school is the relationship between teachers and students, and in particular, our students. I've never met an old Monktonian, and I've met hundreds of them, that I didn't like. A Monktonian student is kind, loving, caring. I'd like to introduce 2 of you, 2 of our students to you now. So, hello.
Hi. Hello. My name is Flora James, and I'm the head girl here at Monkton School.
And tell me, what is the best thing about Moncton School?
My favourite thing about Moncton is the Moncton community, which I think is really enhanced by the large proportion of boarders we have at Moncton. When joining Moncton, I became a boarder initially. I was quite nervous, but I think that was helped. The large pastoral team within the boarding house and also within the wider school. Something that I think is really special about Moncton as well, as Sarah said, is the connection between the pupils and the staff, because we are such a small community.
It means that every pupil is known by name and known as individuals. We're not numbers on a spreadsheet, and so it helps and it makes everyone feel as though they bring something to the community, which I think is really lovely.
Thank you, Flora. Hello.
Hello, my name is Archie Campbell-Cahoon and I'm the Deputy Head Boy here at Moncton.
And what's the best thing about Moncton?
My favourite bit about Moncton is definitely the co-curricular side, which you can pursue outside of the academic. So there's a really wide variety of activities which you can do outside of lessons. So for instance, you can do music, you can get involved in bands or choirs, you can get involved in sport. So we have a really good rowing facility here where many of our students have gone on to GB standard sporting qualifications.
That's fine. Okay, thank you ever so much. Thank you, guys. I must say that bless them, because we're expecting to be a little bit earlier. They've been standing here in this lawn for about 15 minutes. So thank you ever so much, guys, for sharing your stories with us. Thank you ever so much. Bless them. And needless to say that both of them, they weren't prepared. I kind of grabbed them on the fly and I said, would you mind coming to speak to an audience online about your Moncton experience? So it's a testament to both of them that were able to kind of do that so quickly and so willingly. Will, can you still hear me?
I can indeed.
Fantastic. Well, final thoughts just to kind of close up. So why should you consider moving to the southwest of England? I completely empathise. So I grew up in Solihull in the Midlands, and growing up outside my window, there's a main road where, you know, every night I would hear traffic, and I feel I had to grow up a lot quicker while I was growing up, certainly in a kind of urban landscape. Here at Moncton, and especially in the southwest, we like to feel that our students get to enjoy their childhood for a little bit longer. So hopefully you can swap, well, an urban landscape in the southeast, possibly for more of a slower pace of life here in the southwest, whilst also still experiencing excellent academic and pastoral provision. Later on today, we have our head of admissions, Mrs. Carol Heritage. So if you do have any questions for Carol about Bath, moving to Bath, or about Moncton, Carol will be there to answer your questions. On behalf of all the team here at Moncton, we'd like to say good morning and good luck with your choices.
Ross, Monkton Combe, thank you very much indeed. And viewers, that brings us towards the end of our webinar this morning. I have one or two very quick questions and hopefully some answers. Apologies for the brevity of this, but it is always pretty short anyway, because our schools have given us so much wonderful information, visual and audible. So we're just I'm gonna grab one or two and then we'll wrap it up. Just a quick reminder, we will be back next week for the next in our series, the Into series, and it's into the I'm going to wing it because my screen's disappeared, but it's into the home counties, I think. Please, we're going to have another 8 wonderful schools in that category. Please check our website for information and to register at the webinar, schoolsshow.co.uk. On there, you will also find the entire recording of today and our past webinars available for you to view and download. So, questions. James Postle's on my screen, so just by nature of being able to guarantee he's there, I'm going to choose him to answer this, and I think it might have a you might have particular experience in Millfield due to your sheer size and the sports scholarships, not to mention all the other scholarships. But we're asking here, what are the key challenges, James, that children experience coming from the state sector into independent boarding? Big shift there. What are the key challenges in your view, please?
Thank you, Will. Yes, very happy to answer you on that one. We have just joining us generally from the state sector. A lot of interest right at the moment. I think one of the key challenges, obviously, is going to be moving to a boarding, perhaps the first time. That's not unusual. I think many of our students are boarding for the first time. The tradition where people have always been in a boarding school environment is much less now. I would say probably about 60%, 70% of our boarders age of 13 or younger are boarding for the first time. So a friendly, welcoming atmosphere. Do check to see whether you are going to be looking at a weekly flexi or full boarding environment. They do vary between the schools and the distance. So if you are a little further away, most of the schools you've seen today in the southwest are full boarding schools, and that's really important for how many pupils are there at weekends. But I mean, settling in, we will do that. We are friendly places. You know, boarding schools have moved on an awful lot in the last few years. And I think we are now very much about welcoming people and much more contact, just like this. Webinars, you can talk to your parents each night, obviously through all matters of Zoom and Skype and Snapchat and all the things I don't understand anymore, Will, the ways you communicate. So that'll be from me very briefly.
James, thank you so much. How things have changed. When I went to boarding school, I think pretty sure I chose it on the grounds that I wouldn't have to communicate with my parents very often at all, much to my mother's absolute rage. Anyway, next question. Well, we've had a lot of this, so people are asking about extracurricular activities, but I don't think I'm going to ask that question because all 8 of you, all 8 schools have given us a fabulous insight into that key co-curricular element of boarding life. And I cannot stress enough on behalf of all the schools here, I think they will agree, the co-curricular life at a boarding school is a completely different ballgame to that at any alternative, mainly obviously day schools. The amount of added time that you get, if you just think about it in a single week and write down a comparison between a boarding day and a boarding week and a day week, the amount of extra time where you're not commuting or faffing about, the structure it brings, so everyone's doing their homework at the same time, it just frees up this amazing opportunity to indulge yourself in these co-curricular activities, some obviously voluntary, some kind of semi-mandatory like the major sports and things like that. But it really is the only way to get this kind of education for your kids. And, you know, I'm biased, we are all biased here, but this is the only country to really choose because the breadth of boarding schools we have available is unmatched anywhere else in the world. There are some in America, a little bit, you'd be a bit out of place for going from Britain, let's face it, and a few ones dotted around the world, but really this is the home and the founding and the innovator, good old Britain, of boarding education at its best. Now, we've got a couple of students still in picture. So, Julia, I'm going to come to you at Queen Anne's Caversham because I'd be interested to hear your senior girls' views on this from their perspective, because their parents aren't here. But girls, perhaps you could answer, what is the role of your parents? What is the role of a parent when a child is boarding? So, you know, how has your well-being been supported by school in places which might have previously filled parents for you at home?
When I'm boarding, I find most of the time, I don't have the time to actually call my parents, which sounds really bad, but it's just when it just goes a lot quicker in the evenings. But it just gets late quicker, really. So by the time you want to go to bed, and then it's the 5 minutes like, should I call my parents? Probably, but I'm a bit tired.
So for me, because I've boarded for so long, it's like, I don't know, XCR, I'll see my parents on the XCR, I'll see them in half term, and then we have fun there, talk, bond, and then I go to school. Well, I've made the habit of calling my parents every day, even if it's just 5 minutes, but like, how's your day? How are you? If I have any worries, then I'll probably like talk to them about it, but usually it's just a love you mum, love you dad, goodbye. But for school supporting us, I feel like having your friends around you is definitely very helpful, because we're all going through the same thing, especially like now we're doing A-levels, so we can all support each other like that. In-house, if you ever have any worries, we literally, the littlest thing, you can run to your house mistress and be like, oh miss, I'm feeling a bit stressed, like, do you know how to go and help? Or like, sometimes the washing machine breaks, so I need to go run and ask them to go fix the washing machine. Or like, and then sometimes my parents send me foods, because sometimes, school, working hard kind of makes you hungry, so I buy a lot of food. But yeah, I feel like, because I'm mostly going to boarding school to kind of be independent, so it's like, your parents are there, but you're very much so allowed to be independent, so I feel like that's the biggest benefit of boarding school.
Great. Girls, thank you so much for that crucial student insight. So the question was, what's the parents' role? I think we've established there is simply just to pay the bill. Needed, and when the girls turn up, they're not going to call you back either. So look forward to enjoying them as adults when they return home. I'm going to cut it short there. I appreciate, I'm looking at lots of faces waiting for questions, but we've run over horribly, and seeing as we've all spoken, you've all been wonderful. thank you to all of the head teachers and registrars and senior leadership individuals who've joined us from our 8 wonderful schools, namely Millfield, Pangbourne, Marlborough, Monkton Combe, Sherborne Girls, Queen Anne's Caversham, and I really hope I haven't missed anybody out. And if I have, I'm sorry, I'm doing it from people's faces rather than the actual words, which is possibly a bit ambitious. I might have not mentioned Millfield and Cheltenham College, who came at the beginning. As I said, we'll be back next week, Tuesday, the 17th of November, I believe. Do check our website for that. It's another one in this format, and we're going into the home counties. I mean, the excitement never ends here, but I'm going to call it there. If you have any further questions, please feel free to email either the Independent School Show or Bonus McFarlane, and of course these schools. On our site you'll find all of their promotional materials and the contact information, so you can learn more about them from each individual school. But I think hopefully all of them have given you a wonderful snapshot, not quite 5 minutes, but getting there, into their wonderful institutions and schools that they're a part of. Many thanks, everybody. Goodbye. See you all next week.
Thank you.